Jack Elam talks about the 7 actors he respects the most. Jack Elam was born William Scott Elam on November 13, 1920 in Miami, Arizona. He grew up in tough mining towns of the American Southeast, and this childhood would later help him play real frontier roles. His early life was filled with hard times and strong will. His mother died when he was young, and Elam had to help support his family during the Great Depression. He worked many different jobs, including as a hotel manager, bookkeeper, and even an auditor for the Standard Oil Company. A childhood accident left him blind in his left eye, a feature that would later become one of his most well-known traits and help make him Hollywood's ultimate lovable villain. Before getting into show business, Elam served in the US Navy during World War II, showing the same toughness and strength that would later define his movie character. After the war, he found work in Hollywood not as an actor, but as an accountant and studio auditor. Surprisingly, he got into acting almost by accident. He had become friends with several industry people and eventually decided to try acting in the late 1940s. His scared face, lazy eye, and rugged charm made him a perfect fit for westerns and crime movies. Elam's earliest credited roles were in films such as The Sundowners 1950 and Quicksand 1950, where his performances, though brief, caught the attention of both directors and audiences. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, Jack Elam became one of the most wanted character actors in Hollywood. He appeared in a wide variety of Western films and television shows, often playing colorful bad guys or funny sidekicks. His roles in Rawhide, Gunsmoke, Bonanza, and Have Gun, Will Travel showed his ability to play different types of characters. However, it was his work in films such as High Noon 1952, Veracruz 1954, and On Soup and a Time in the West 1968 that made his reputation as someone who stole very seen. In Once Upon a Time in the West, Elam's portrayal of a quiet, bug-eyed gunman in the film's opening sequence is considered one of the most iconic moments in Western movies. Without saying a word, he showed danger, humor, and tiredness all at once. This proved his remarkable ability to command the screen. Elam's career took an interesting turn in the 1970s when he began to move from playing scary villains to funny roles. This shift allowed audiences to see another side of his talent. He showed an amazing ability to deliver humor with perfect timing while still keeping the rough charm that made him famous. Films like Support Your Local Sheriff, 1969, and Support Your Local Gunfighter, 1971, showed Elam as a lovable troublemaker, often clumsy butcherman. His chemistry with stars like James Garner was perfect, and these performances revealed his deep understanding of comedy. This change not only made his career last longer, but made him a favorite among a new generation of moviegoers who loved his humor as much as his toughness. In television, Elam continued to do well, appearing in series such as The Twilight Zone, The Rifleman, The Dakotas, and later Alias Smith and Jones. He also found success in made-for-TV westerns and family comedies during the 1980s, such as The Texas Wheelers and East Street. No matter what he was in, Elam brought a realness and surprise to his roles that made him stand out in every scene. His ability to balance scary with funny made him a rare performer, one who could make audiences laugh just moments after scaring them. Jack Elam's personality, much like his famous Hollywood career, showed both lasting love and quiet strength. His marriages were not just background details, but important chapters in the life of a man who lived with a sense of loyalty, humor, and down-to-earth humanity despite his fame as one of cinema's most colorful characters. His first marriage was to Gina Hart, whom he married in 1937, long before his days as a familiar face in westerns and crime dramas. At the time, Elam was still years away from being a star, working various jobs to make ends meet, including as an accountant and auditor. Jean stood beside him through those tough, uncertain years when Hollywood success was just a distant dream. Their union was built on loyalty and love, and she provided a sense of emotional support that kept him steady while he struggled to find his place in life. By all accounts, Jean was a patient, devoted, and kind-hearted woman, qualities that matched Elam's dry wit and playful personality. Their marriage lasted for nearly 24 years, covering the period in which Elam made the big decision to leave accounting and pursue acting full-time in the late 1940s. Sadly, their long partnership came to an end in 1961 when Jean passed away. Her death was a terrible loss to Elam. Those who knew him well described how deeply he mourned her death and how it affected him both personally and professionally. During that time, Elam was already a recognizable face in Hollywood, appearing in films like Irrowide, 1951, and Kansas City Confidential, 1952. But the death of his wife cast a shadow over his success. He was known for playing tough, mean villains on screen, but off-screen he was a man of feeling and loyalty. Licinian left him with an emptiness that will take time to heal. Later that summer, Elam found companionship again when he married Margaret M. Jennison in 1961. Marking the beginning of a new and lasting chapter in his personal life, Margaret was not part of the Hollywood scene, and her quiet nature was said to balance Jack's odd humor and rough charm. Together, they built a family-oriented life that gave Elam peace and comfort, especially as his career continued to do well through the 1960 and 1970 seconds. This marriage would last for the rest of his life, spanning more than 4 decades until his death in 2003 with Margaret. Elam embraced a sense of normal life amid the chaos of show business. The couple raised children and lived much of their later life away from the bright lights of Hollywood, spending time in California and Arizona, where Elam enjoyed fishing, storytelling, and the friendship of old friends. Margaret supported her husband through his long and successful career from the days when was typecast as a rough outlaw or comic, drunk to his later years when he moved into more funny and family-friendly roles such as in Support Your Local Sheriff 1969 and The Cannonball Run 1981. Their marriage was described to be friends, as a warm and lasting partnership built on humor and mutual respect. Elam often spoke of his wife with affection, giving her credit for helping him keep balance and perspective amid Hollywood's unpredictability. She was by his side during his health problems in later years and remained his closest companion until his passing. In known of his most thoughtful and honest interviews late in his life, veteran actor Jack Elam opened up about the people who had most shaped his career and his respect for the craft of acting. Known for his wild-eyed expressions, rough looks, and perfect timing in both villain and comedic roles, Elam spent decades working with some of the biggest names in Hollywood. When asked which actors he admired most, not for their fame, but for their dedication, realness, and work ethic, Elam took his time before answering. There are a lot of funny actors I've known, but there are 7 who stand above the rest in my book, has aid. The first name on Elam's list was Marvin, a man he described as tough as the desert and twice as honest. Elam explained that Marvin's no-nonsense approach to acting and his complete efficacy in every role made him unforgettable. Lee didn't act tough. He was tough. And yet, when the cameras rolled, he could show more truth in a single squint than some guys can show in a whole movie. Elam said he admired Marvin's ability to balance masculinity with emotional depth, calling him the kind of man who made every line count. Whether he was hooding it out in the professionals or just sitting quiet with a drink in his hand. Next, Elam mentioned Walter Brennan, whose long career in westerns and character parts had deeply influenced him. Walter was one of the first actors who taught me Thatcher actor isn't in the costume, it's in the eyes, Elam noted. He recalled watching Brennan on set how the veteran could command attention even in silence. He had this way of letting you know a whole life story without saying a word. That's a rare gift, and it's something I try to learn from him every chance I get. A close third was James Stewart, whom Elam described as the soul of decency in motion pictures. Despite Elam's own reputation for playing outlaws and troublemakers, he had enormous admiration for Stewart's unsociable sincerity. Jimmy had the everyman thing. You believed him no matter what. He could be the hero, the sheriff, the man next door. It didn't matter. You trusted him, Elam reflected. He credited Stewart with proving that kindness could be powerful on screen, adding, I played a lot of mean sons often, but Stewart showed that strength doesn't always come from your fists. It can come from your heart. Elam then spoke warmly of John Wayne, who had become both a colleague and an icon in the Western genre. Now Duke was Duke, Elam said with a grin. Nobody could fill the screen like him. He wasn't trying to be a legend. He just was. He remembered Wayne's commanding presence and his generosity toward other actors. He treated the crew like family and the extras like equals. That's something people don't talk about enough. Duke had a way of making everyone on a set feel important. Elam also noted that Wayne's professionalism inspired respect across the industry. When he rode into a scene, you straightened up a little, whether you meant to or not. The fifth actor on Elam's list was Henry Fonda, whom heckled a master of quiet power. Elam appreciated Fonda's precision and restraint, contrasting it with the larger-than-life style of other stars. Henry never overplayed anything. He didn't have to. You could read every thought behind his eyes. Elam said he cited Fonda's performances in films like Grapes of Wrath and Once Upon a Time in the West as acting lessons that every young performer ought to study. Then came Slim Pickens, one of Elam's favorite co-stars and closest friends. Slim was a cowboy before he was an actor, and he never forgot that. Elam recalled fondly. He brought the real West with him wherever he went. And boy cowled he make a scene sing. He'd have you laughing 1 minute and getting misty-eyed the next. Elam admired Pickens' humor and heart, calling him a reminder that being genuine is the best acting trick there is. Finally, Elam named Clint Eastwood as the last of his 7 most respected actors. Clint came along when westerns were changing and heckled with them. Elam said he didn't say much, but when he did, you listened. He had that rare combination of mystery and truth. Elam respected Eastwood not just as a performer, but as a director who understood the soul of the Western. He carried on what we all started back in the old days, but he made it his own. I respect that more than I can say. Through these words, Elam offered a glimpse into the heart of a man who spent his life playing villains, but who held deep admiration for realness, humility, and skill. His list of 7 wasn't just about celebrity. It was about integrity. And in naming them, he revealed the values that guided him through one of the most colorful and lasting careers in Hollywood history. On October 20, 2003, Hollywood lost one of its most distinctive and beloved actors when Jack Elam passed away at his home in Ashland, Oregon from congestive heart failure. He was 82 years old. For decades, Elam had been a fixture of American film and television, instantly recognizable for his crooked eye, gravelly voice, and colorful portrayals of villains, drunks, and sidekicks in westerns and comedies. His death marked the end of an era for those who loved the golden age of the Western and the unique, rough-edged personalities that brought it to life. Elam's passing in Ashland, a quiet and beautiful community in southern Oregon, was fitting for a man who had spent much of his later life away from the spotlight, enjoying the peace and simplicity that rural life provided. Having spent years on sound stages and dusty back lots under the blazing California sun, he found comfort in the beauty of Oregon's mountains and forests. Far removed from Hollywood's fast-paced world, friends and neighbors described him as a kind, soft-spoken man who preferred fishing, storytelling, and spending time with his family to the social world of Los Angeles. Despite his screen presence, those who knew him personally often spoke of his humor, humility, and warmth. Congestive heart failure, the condition that ultimately took his life, had slowed him in his final years, but he reportedly remained spirited and sharp-minded until the end. Even as his health got worse, Jack kept this sense of humor, something that had defined both his career and his personality. In interviews late in life, he joked about his long list of on-screen deaths, saying he had been killed more ways than any other actor in Hollywood, and that when his time came, he hoped to go quietly. Not with the fake blood and the screaming. In many ways, he got his wish. His departure was peaceful, surrounded by love and the memories of a remarkable career that spanned more than half a century.